What is going on, New York Giants fans? The Giant topic back at it again. And you guys already know we have some familiar guests with us on the channel today. Aaron, we got Rodney from the Big Blue Corner. What better way to spend your Monday evening than with us talking New York Giants football? And trust, we have a lot to talk about. Can't wait to dive into this. But before we do, please subscribe to the gentlemen's channels that you guys are seeing. You guys can find them below. Aaron's channel as well as Rodney's channel in the description box below. You'll also find Chris from CPNY Sports Network's channel, a familiar guest that we have on this channel often. You can find his in the description box below. Fellas, how are we doing this evening?
Shoot, doing good, man. Doing good. How about you, man? Aaron, always a pleasure, bro.
Yeah, you as well. I'm doing pretty good myself. And pretty good free agent signings from us, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're going to dive right into free agency because the Giants were very busy this upcoming free agency. They spent quite a bit of money, I believe the most amount of money next to the Washington Commanders this offseason. Definitely something I don't think a lot of Giants fans were really having on their mind that the Giants were going to be big spenders in free agency. I thought the Giants would make at least one splash signing. Me personally, I don't know about you guys, but I thought that was going to be more towards the offensive line. I really didn't see the New York Giants making a splash trade like they did for Brian Burns, as well as making additional contracts like they did. But let's start this off, right? So first signing that they make, Devin Singletary, at least for me personally, and I do want to get your guys' thoughts on this. When I saw that the New York Giants were bringing in Devin Singletary after Saquon Barkley, hits the market, for me personally, I was actually kind of excited for this signing. I'm not expecting anything, huge from Devin Singletary, but he's been a consistent running back, and he's been able to stay on the field, which we can all agree we haven't been able to see with Saquon in recent years. He signs a 3-year deal. I have the numbers here: $16.5 million contract, and includes a 3.75 signing bonus, 9.5 guarantee on an average annual salary of $5.5 million. So not too much money there spent at the running back position. Just recently played in Houston. I want to get you guys' thoughts on the guy because he's definitely a different back than what we've had in recent years with Saquon Barkley. Knowing that he's a bruiser of a runner, he can run guys over at the line of scrimmage. What are you guys' thoughts on the signing?
I'll let Aaron go first.
I love it, actually. I mean, he's cheaper than Saquon. I think he's 5'7", 5'8", and goes right through between the tackles. So even if we don't have a really good offensive line, at least he can get through. He's shifty. He's really good on screens. We've seen it in Buffalo where he has the Brian Dable connection. So I would rather go with a cheaper guy for the same amount of years and have a guy who just pitter-patters, runs side to side instead of going north and south.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Rodney?
I mean, I agree. It's the same thing for me, cheaper alternative. I think the key is this line going to be any better this season based off of what we've seen throughout the season throughout this, 6-7 seasons that we had Saquon Barkley. So absolutely. I think that's really going to dictate to, all the fans as far as how things are going. How things are looking. Are they trending upwards or are they trending downwards? Based off of the simple fact of what we've seen from Saquon Barkley. I think Devin Singletary is a change. He's different. He's not running with this. He doesn't run the same as Saquon Barkley. As Aaron said, he runs between the tackles. Yep. Barkley loves to be able to just bounce it outside. He's trying to go for that home run. Singletary, he's going to get you those hard-earned 5-6 yards as long as the offensive line allows it. But, instead of averaging 3.5, 3.6, maybe we could push a 5 to 6. So, and he's a cheap alternative. So it is what it is with that.
No, and I definitely agree with both of the points that you guys made. And one thing that I like, again, like I stated earlier, is he's a consistent back. I mean, when you look at the numbers, when you look at him on the field, I mean, year in and year out, even back in Buffalo, where things didn't go too well for him, I mean, he was still a consistent back. I mean, you look at just the numbers that he had alone last year: 216 carries for 898 yards, 4 touchdowns, 30 receptions for 193 yards. And honestly, in my opinion, I don't think they're done at that position yet. You know, we've heard some rumors here about, you know, possibly AJ Dillon, who I'm not too big of a fan on. I'd rather them address it in the draft. But I do think that they need to add one or two more pieces in this running back room. Because I mean, you look at the running back now. I mean, what is it? Matt Breida, Eric Gray, now Devin Singletary. I mean, it really leaves a lot to be a lot to be desired, in my honest opinion. And you know, with Saquon being gone, they're gonna need another force on this offense that can command some respect. And you know, Devin Singletary, he's not a force, but he's a bruiser. He'll be able to get you, you know, some nice yards. And one thing that I like about him that you guys have pointed out is that, you know, he's not going, you know, side to side, anything like that. He's going to run straight through you. He's going to run through those gaps. And, you know, to kind of tackle on that offensive line point, Rodney, I mean, you make a good point. I mean, we're going to have to see how these signings pan out. The Giants did sign quite a few offensive linemen in free agency, but I think that when you look at the numbers and you look at the production, I think they go hand in hand. We know that Joe Shane wasn't willing to spend a lot of money on the running back position. You know, he wasn't willing to give Saquon Barkley a multi-year deal that Saquon Barkley felt, you know, was within the value of what he felt he was valued. And I think that this is the number that you want to stay at. You don't want to overpay at the running back position. I don't really have a problem with this signing, and I think it's a good bargain signing. Now, after that, New York Giants went and signed right guard John Runyon Jr., son of the Philadelphia Eagles offensive lineman. In my honest opinion, John Runyon with the Green Bay Packers, you know, he was average. You know, I'm not expecting anything too crazy. He did sign a 3-year deal worth $30 million, $17 million guaranteed. He was a 6th-round pick in 2020 by the Green Bay Packers. Now, one thing that I did find interesting is that he's familiar with playing both on the left and the right side of the offensive line. So I've seen a lot of people pencil him in at right guard. I've seen some people pencil him at left guard. And I think, you know, whether, you know, that situation comes, if Evan Neal needs to be put at the guard position, you know, you can put Evan Neal on the left-hand side and keep John Runyon Jr. on the right-hand side and plug in Jermaine Illuminor. Now, my honest opinion, I kind of like this signing. One thing that does concern me, and it kind of goes to what you were just talking about, Rodney, John Runyon Jr. is not that good in the run game. The films show it. The stats show it. He is not that good in the run game. He is, however, good in the passing game, which I think the Giants are going to be leaning more towards now. I think the Giants are going to become a more pass-friendly offense now with Saquon out of the building. You know, you can get a guy like Singletary where you don't got to run the ball too much. But John Runyon Jr., how did you guys feel about this signing when you guys became aware of it? Because I like the signing. My expectations are low, but this is a good signing for an average player.
He's ninth. He's ranked ninth in the guard category, and I think he only had 2 sacks last year. I think the most he's had since being drafted, I think, was like 4 or 5. So I will definitely take that over a Mark Lewinsky or a Ben Bredesen who left us for Tampa.
Yeah.
So I'm cool with that. I mean, I think I saw too when he got signed, he only had 22 pressures last year. So if he can protect Daniel or the other guy we signed, Drew Lock, maybe this will be something that we can push in Evan Neal to one of the guard spots and have John Runyon start at either side. But I thought it was a great signing, and it wasn't really that bad either money-wise. And I think Illuminar should definitely start at that right tackle. That's going to be a hot take until we see it, but I think that should happen.
Excellent point there, man. Excellent point. Because again, with him having familiarity at the left side and the right side, if you're going to plug in Jermaine Illuminor, who, in my honest opinion, I'm not fully giving up on Neal yet. I've been vocal that Neal should not be given the job outright. He should have competition there. But if Jermaine Illuminor can come in and be that starter, you now have 2 guys in the interior that can be, in my opinion, at least average guards, which is better than what we've had in recent years. And you're not paying him too much. Rodney, how are you feeling about the John Runyon Jr. signing? Are you a fan of it? Are you not a fan of it? How are you feeling, man? Oh, you might be muted, buddy.
Shoot. My bad, dog. I'm a fan of anything that has anything to do with fixing this offensive line. So they could have signed 100 freaking guards and tackles. It didn't bother me one bit. Joe Shane, Brian Dable, they realized that this offensive line is a problem. They had to address the trenches. They did that. Now, a lot of people are not going to be happy with the signings. Maybe they were looking for, tier one type. Look, it's not like we had a whole lot of money to go out there and try to sign all tier one. A lot of those guards, I mean, if anybody has noticed, guards are signing for anywhere 20 to 24 mil a year. Okay? Just imagine that number for a second. For a guard, 20 to 24. You got right tackles. I mean, left tackles are signing for what? Anywhere from 25, 26 and up. Guards are signing from 20 to 24. So it just shows you how wide open that often, just the free agent market was, how expensive it was even then. But I'm not upset. They addressed a glaring need. And that was very, very important as far as a Giants fan, you can't be upset with it. Maybe you're upset with who they signed. You don't think he's adequate enough, but the simple fact they addressed it. And as you said, he's good in pass pro. Maybe he's kind of iffy in run in the run blocking. Maybe he can get better. Who knows? But good signing for the price. You can't be too upset. They addressed the glaring need.
And I think that the two guys that we signed, Aaron Stinney, who is a Super Bowl champion, by the way, started in the Super Bowl for Tom Brady. And if that guy started for Tom Brady, that means he's pretty good. So that could be a good one. I think he plays all three positions, center and both guards. So that's a great depth right there, no matter what happens. And I think Austin Schlottman, I just read up about him right now. I mean, granted, he is a backup because it says he only has allowed like 3 sacks, but then again, he hasn't really started a lot. But that could be your run blockers. It definitely looks like an upgrade from Shane Lemieux, that's for sure.
No, and I agree. I mean, I think right now anything is going to be an upgrade over what we saw last season, right? I mean, in my honest opinion, what we saw last season was one of, if not the worst offensive line showcase that we've seen in recent years. I mean, it was that bad, in my honest opinion, especially when Evan Neal went down. You really saw how bad this offensive line can be. So I can't get too hard on Joe Shane and crew for this signing. I know a lot of people wanted what was his name from New England who just signed, Michael Onwenu. I know a lot of people wanted him. You saw the money that he got. I don't think Joe Shane was going to be willing to go that high. Like you said, Rod, you look at some of the contracts that were dished out. Just look at what Robert Hunt got with Carolina. I mean, it's a lot of money, and I mean when you I think when you really look at a lot of these contracts, which we're going to go over, a lot of them show me that they're kind of structured for an out for Daniel Jones after next season. I think the Giants are really just preparing themselves to get out of that contract after this season and go from there on a rookie contract, especially the Brian Burns contract. When you look at how it's structured. Now, I understand because I've seen some fans complain that they didn't like the John Runyon Jr. signing, seeing how he was in the run game, seeing some of the faults that he had in his passing game. I have faith at least he can be an average offensive lineman because that's what he's been since he came into the league. That's what he's been. Granted, if I'm going to play devil's advocate, Mark Lewinsky was a good offensive guard before he came to the Giants and played like a complete ass. And I think that maybe you guys will disagree or agree with me. Mark Lewinsky is going to go somewhere else and play average to above average, and we're going to say, what the hell happens? It just happened with John Feliciano. It happens with Eric Flowers. It's happened with Will Hernandez. Don't know what I think it just goes down to coaching. It's going down to coaching and development. And I hope that Carmen Pachillo, this new offensive line coach, can coach these guys up so we can retain some of these guys and we can build a solid offensive line, which we have not had in over a decade. Now, let's go to the big splash signing that the New York Giants made. Actually, before we do that, I know I clicked on a couple of these comments, but I did not address them. That is on me. Want to give a quick shout out to Coach Ed, who is in the chat. Appreciate you stopping by, Coach Ed. Always love. Hope you're doing good. Jaden the champ. He says, had to switch my profile picture due to Saquon Barkley, man. Jaden, we'll definitely talk about Saquon Barkley in a minute. I know Aaron was happy as hell to see Saquon Barkley leave. We'll definitely talk about that. Philly Special Cards. How you doing, man? Appreciate you stopping by. Treat Saquon better than when we treated him, man. That's all I got to say. But yeah, appreciate everyone that's been watching, man. Don't forget to subscribe to these guys' channels below. Really appreciate you guys watching. Let's talk about Brian Burns. This was a player that come the day that he was getting ready to be traded, the rumors really started picking up steam. Now, I honestly did not think the New York Giants were going to trade for an edge rusher, let alone Brian Burns, who just a season, 2 seasons ago, almost commanded 2 first-round picks that the Panthers declined from the Los Angeles Rams, which is insane, just insane to me. And the Giants get him for a steal. They essentially get him for what they what they received in the Leonard Williams trade, which I think a lot of Giants fans would trade Leonard Williams for Brian Burns. Signed a 5-year deal, $141 million, includes a $35 million signing bonus, $87.5 million guaranteed on an annual average salary of $28.2 million. That is per Sport Track. So I really love this signing. I mean, quick, has a really good first step. He could get around the corner, has a nice bend, quick hands. I know some people will say he does need to improve and, just build on some strength. I definitely think that'll help him, especially in the run game. But this is a player that the Giants have lacked since the JPP days, in my honest opinion. I mean, you have someone now that commands respect as an edge rusher on your defensive line. You have someone that's not only going to help alleviate, pressure off of Dexter Lawrence, but also Kayvon Thibodeau as well, and Azeez Ojulari. Now you have Azeez Ojulari, who has shown you that he can't stay healthy. As a rotational pass rusher, I think Azeez Ojulari will be fine. But you have 2 guys on your defensive line that commands respect in Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns. And I absolutely love this signing. I mean, what can you really dislike about this signing? I mean, Spider-Man returns home. You get someone that he's averaged 7 sacks a season since he's entered into the league. On a down year, he had 8 sacks and 53 total tackles. So I think he really embodies what Joe Shane and Brian Dable want as a New York Giant. Smart, dependable, a leader, someone that can really just benefit this team. And I think a lot of people would agree that he's probably your 3rd, if not at worst, 4th best player on this team currently at the moment when you just look at the resume and what he's had career-wise. But what are you guys feeling about this signing? Did you guys like this signing? Were you excited about this signing? Because I personally was. I got that money already aside for that Brian Burns jersey. I need that number 0.
I think everybody was pretty much like, remember when Kenny Galladay was signed, and everybody you heard all through Twitter, don't let him leave the building. Don't let him leave the building. Sign him. Make sure you get him signed. This is way different. This is way, way different. I think fans would have to be genuinely excited for this signing because it was something that we needed. Yeah. We needed another edge rusher to pair with Kayvon Thibodeau. Maybe a lot of people weren't happy with how much we paid him. Look, it's free agency. You're going to overpay for players. This is just a fact. But you're getting someone who has, in my opinion, a lot of upside. And as I said, I don't look at it as a waste of money. I think it's a really, really good investment on something that we needed. Azeez is, I mean, what can you say? When he's on the field, does he make a big impact? All depends on when he's healthy. And even when he's healthy, how much can you really rely on him because you're wondering whether or not he's going to go down with another injury afterwards. with this one here, you at least got a consistent pass rusher who gets, as you said, 7+ sacks. What a season for what his first 7 seasons in.
I mean, yeah,
you can't beat that.
5 years, 5 years, man.
Exactly. So you can't beat that. You need someone who has that sort of consistency to pair with Kayvon Thibodeau, as you said. Take some of that pressure off of Dexter Lawrence. I see. I'm praying that Shane Bowen can get this defense up to where it's supposed to be, as far as getting back to the days where we're rushing the pass with 4. Wink had exotic blitzes. He was not just using the front 4, front 3 to blitz. He was using linebackers. He was using cornerbacks. He was using safeties. How much pressure can we get with this front 4 or 3, depending on whatever scheme he's running, to where it complements that back end? And I'm gonna. That's one thing I'm gonna be very interested in seeing. But I really do like the signing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean the money that he got, it's pretty much the Bosa brothers and TJ Watt, and he's in that category of defensive ends. And the best thing that I saw out of it was that he's averaged 20 quarterback hits as a DN. And when he was the linebacker last year in that terrible Carolina Panthers defense, he had 18 quarterback hits. So, I mean, if that's bad, then I guess I don't want to be good. But also with Rodney's point with Shane Bowen, remember, Tennessee's defense, even with Mike Vrabel there, they were top 15. And the 2 things that we weren't good at and haven't been good at, I think, since the NASCAR days of 2011 was third down and the red zone. And that's the thing that Shane Bowen does with the Tennessee Titans defense, is that he stops it on third downs and in the red zone. So with all the guys that we're bringing in, and maybe in the draft, which maybe we'll talk about a little bit later, but I mean, you need pass rushers in this defense, and he's had great pass rushers in Tennessee, and he just got another one in Carolina for I think it's a steal. I don't even think it was an overpay. He's 25 years old, and he'll be 30 by the end of his contract, and I will definitely take it, especially for this defense.
Absolutely. And one thing that, for me personally, that I love about this signing, I think it's a great fit for Shane Bowen's defense. I mean, I really thought that Kayvon Thibodeau would be, I think he would really benefit in the Shane Bowen defense as compared to, a Wink Martindale defense. Even though, he did have double-digit sacks in a Wink Martindale defense, I don't think necessarily that scheme was fit for Kayvon Thibodeau. That's just me personally.
And that's what he's good at, though, is a DN. He did it in Oregon. When he's out and about, he gets used because he doesn't know how to use his hands as a linebacker. But when he's a DN, he can put his hand down and do the swim move, do whatever he needs to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jarius, this was an excellent comment here. I want to see Andre Patterson, really work with these guys more, because he wasn't able to when Wink Martindale was in the building. He had his own people working with the linebackers, and we had some pretty bad linebacker play in terms of edge rusher, not the linebacker core itself, but in terms of edge rusher. I mean, when you look at the pressure rate, when you look at winning percentage, could have been a lot better. You saw it pop up in games consistently where Kayvon is getting shut down. You look at the Raiders game, Jermaine Illuminor, who we'll talk about in a second, completely shut out Kayvon Thibodeau, made him look like a scrub in that game. And honestly, I know that a lot of people, they really hype up that double-digit sack season, but as great as the double-digit sacks were, I mean, there was moments where he kind of flamed out a little bit, and he's going to get better. But bringing a guy like Brian Burns, who, he has that leadership, he has that resume, on him where he can show Kayvon Thibodeau the ropes on how to be a dominant edge rusher, how to be, a good edge rusher, a very good edge rusher in this league. I mean, this is a good player to learn from. And like you said, Aaron, he's only 25. He's only 25. He fits with the young mold that the Giants have right now, because the Giants are a young roster. And for me, I think that he instantly brings respect and credibility to this defense, who already has some young key pieces on the defense, and we'll see what they do in the draft. We'll see, if they make any more signings, but I think this was a big splash play for the Giants. This was an excellent signing. A must, in my honest opinion, especially when you look at, the lines that we have to deal with in this division alone. Dallas and Philly both have 2 top 5 offensive lines in the league. You need someone that can win on a down-to-down basis going against them. And no slander to Kayvon Thibodeau, but we weren't really getting it done. And I think you bring in a guy like Brian Burns, who's quick off the edge, like I said, has a good, solid first step, knows how to use his hands well. He could bend around the corner. Again, he can help alleviate pressure off of Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon. This was a home run signing. I absolutely love it. Now, NYG31, appreciate you stopping by, man. Means the world. Appreciate you, brother. Hope all is well. Let's talk about, I think this is the fan favorite next to Brian Burns, Jermaine Illuminor, right tackle from the Las Vegas Raiders. He signed a 2-year deal, $14 million with $6.75 million guaranteed. Now, he's already become a fan favorite. I mean, he's really embodied what it means to be a Giant. He's interacting with the fan base, showing love, showing support, excited to be here, excited to be a New York Giant. I think that goes a lot to say, there was a lot of people who, were saying, well, who would want to play for the Giants? Who would want to go to that shit show? It seems like there's a lot of players, especially in this draft, who have spoken very high of Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen and the New York Giants as a whole, for the organization. So having someone who's been an average tackle come in and, want to be here, and even reaching out to O.C. Umenora saying, hey, I want to wear your number. I know that it means a lot. I'm going to be great. I want to be great. I mean, I'm really excited to see this cat on the field. I really, really am, because, look, I'll say this again. Evan Neal should not be given the job outright. You're crazy if you think that he should be. I'm not giving up on Evan Neal. If you want to label him as a bust, I'm not going to argue with you whatsoever, but I'm not giving up on him. This is a signing to me that should light a fire under Evan Neal's ass. Either get it together or we're going to place you at offensive guard. And we have someone that has shown that not only under this offensive line coaching regime, he can be a solid, if not average, right tackle, which the Giants can't say that they've had in quite some time. I think he's an upgrade over Tyree Phillips, who looked pretty serviceable, honestly, in Neal's place. I mean, Jermaine Illuminor, in my honest opinion, I think if he can come in and play average, because I'm not expecting anything more than average. I think anything more than that would just be too much to expect. But just average offensive line play, it'll do dividends for this offensive line, because we have not had that on the offensive line. And, you put a guy like John Runyon next to someone who, can bring some stability at your right side at the right tackle. That should only help your offensive line and help John Michael, who's going to be going into his second year. But I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on it. What did you guys think about this Jermaine Illuminor signing?
He literally helped the Raiders have one of the best rush attacks in the league. I think they averaged at least 2,000 yards in one of the years, which is the most since 2011. I mean, Josh Jacobs, he got a big payday because of this. And even the guy who was in with them now, which is Zamir White, was a rookie, and he balled out with. They told Josh Jacobs, hey, don't even come back if you're still hurt. This guy can do it. So he has the experience. I think what we see in the comments is Evan Jermaine should battle for a time. I think, again, Evan Neal should be left guard. Could you imagine on that left side? And then you could put Devin Singletary over there, or whoever we draft, or even sign back.
Nasty.
Yeah, so I would just put what we just said: Runyon at the right guard and Illuminor at the right tackle. It's a pretty solid offensive line. We have good backups, like we just talked about, even with the Azudas or Marcus McKeithans, who can actually, they have starter experience now, and they can still be serviceable backups. Kevin Booth is not coming back, so we can't get anybody like that. But I think it's a great. We haven't had a right tackle since literally. I don't know why I'm spacing out today on names, but since I can't even think of his name. I can't think of his name. Oh, it'll come to me.
You're good, man. You're good, man. No, I mean, he brings instant credibility, at least. In my honest opinion, if he can at least be average, maybe above average, I mean, I think whether that's Daniel Jones, whether that's Drew Lock, or whoever they decide to draft at quarterback, I mean, I think that'll definitely help out a lot. To the folks that want Michael Penix, I like Michael Penix, but I haven't seen Jermaine play on the field yet. We don't know if Evan Neal is going to take that step forward. Not too sure how I feel taking a left-handed quarterback. My honest opinion, just not knowing what we have at the right side. I'm more comfortable taking a right hand, knowing that we got Andrew Thomas at left tackle. He's going to be, his blind side will be protected. Can't really say that for the right side as of this moment. If we had a more definitive answer, I'd be banging the table. But yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, Aaron. Hey, Rod, how are you feeling about the Jermaine Illuminor signing?
I like the signing. I really do like the signing. Let me just say this. Everything that I've seen Joe Shane and Dable do as far as this free agency tells me where they feel, what positions they feel are the most important. This line is the most important thing that they had to address. Have to address. They brought in a new coach in was it Carmen Brasillo? You have to address this line. Now, as you said, I'm not willing to give up on Evan Neal, not just yet. And I hope that this signing does light a fire on his ass to get better. But the problem that I see is this. One, we need to address the offensive line, whether it's through the draft or free agency, every single year. Do what Dallas does. Do what Philly does. Do what a lot of these teams are doing. I'm not entirely convinced that what we've seen in the past few years, if it's, this probably has shown me that it's probably, they're taking a proactive step in doing what is necessary to fix it. You're right. Evan Neal shouldn't be just giving this outright just because he was the 5th or 7th overall, the 5th overall pick, 7th overall pick. This is your job. As of right now, this is your job to lose. Period. End the conversation. In the story. You don't play. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you don't play up to par, up to where your draft stock, your draft status was. If you haven't shown that you haven't gotten any better, you're right. Push him over the guard. That's where you're going to be at. And especially if Illuminor can literally beat him out. At that point, if he's playing, that, if you trust him enough to be your right tackle, I agree with you. Maybe Penix, because he's left-handed, you got to be able to trust someone on his blind side. If you trust Illuminor to do that, you can take a flyer on Penix. He doesn't have to play the first year. He can sit just so you can evaluate the offensive line. So I'm not upset with the signing. Like I said earlier, I'm glad that they went ahead and they literally addressed a glaring need. You can't be upset with that. No matter who else was out there, the fact is they did their due diligence and they literally went out and got players to help fix this offensive line.
Absolutely. And honestly, they're trying. I can't say that they're not. It's just a matter of hitting on those players. I mean, we've seen them try. I mean, they've made quite a few selections in the draft, try to take offensive linemen, just has not worked out, whether that's McKeithen, whether that's Evan Neal, whether that's, players that they've signed in free agency like Lewinsky, they're trying, but unfortunately it's not paying out right now. And I think, with this switch at offensive line coach, hopefully Carmen Petrillo can come in and develop these guys properly, because we really have been lacking coaching and development at the offensive line position. And, we're going to need it. We're going to need it because I've said it before and I've said it again. If Evan Neal cannot produce and cannot develop, I think, honestly, that's going to be a big stain on Joe Shane's resume. I mean, to completely swing and miss on a player who going into that draft was, I saw mock drafts of him going number 1 overall, to Jacksonville. There was mock drafts, having him going in the top 3, and to get him at 7, the consensus was that was a steal. So, I don't think, a guy of, Evan Neal's measurables and, you look at the film, especially going back to college, I don't think that this is a play that you should, just outright give up on. But I do think that if you start to see that he's not developing and that, things are not clicking for him, kick up the guard, start Jermaine Illuminor. And, you got to hope that these players can stay healthy. You got to hope that, these players can develop. Now, Going from there, the Giants made some smaller signings, which we can, kind of quickly go through. We had Jalen Mills, former Eagle, then Patriot, comes back to the Meadowlands. Nothing too crazy, in my honest opinion. I think, with McKinney leaving, that is going to leave a hole in your secondary. This is definitely, a good opportunity for Dane Belton, who seems to have a knack for finding the ball. This is going to be a good opportunity for him to get some reps in. But Jalen Mills, he's going to provide that veteran leadership to the secondary. Not really expected too much from him. He came off a pretty down season with the New England Patriots after signing a pretty decent contract with them a couple years ago. The Giants signed Xavier McKinney, slot wide receiver, which we should not be surprised. As the New York Giants love to sign these slot wide receivers. I think definitely we can leave free agency right now with, a strong feeling that the Giants are going to address the wide receiver position early. You have some people at 6. You have some people looking at that second round pick that they have now. I think, this is definitely very telling. You look at Jack Stoll. He spent some time with the Eagles. He's a pretty good blocking tight end.
Yeah, take that, Philly. You take Saquon, we take your backup tight end.
We take your 4th string tight end. How do you like that? Giants also signed Chris Manhertz. He was with the Broncos. These are just, to me, in my honest opinion, practice squad signings. Aaron Stinney, who we kind of went over with, he played, I believe, what was it, with Tampa most recently. He played in that Super Bowl, like you mentioned earlier, Aaron. He brings some veteran leadership to this offense, and he can hopefully, come in and, compete for the guard position because we need as much competition as we can get. The Giants lastly also signed Austin. I'm going to completely butcher this. Austin Schlottman. He played at TCU in 2018 for what I remember, but just been a little bit of a journeyman. He did play for the Vikings, hasn't really shown too many flashes that he can be, a starting guard, but I think he could be a nice depth piece for a team that lacks quality depth at the offensive line, let alone guard position. So kind of went through free agency a little quick there, but there were some signings to be excited about. There were some other signings that, they look to be bargain signings, but, Bobby Okereke was considered a bargain signing, and he came in and played every single snap, became an instant, in my honest opinion, should have been an all-pro player. I think he was one of the best linebackers to play last year. And if we could get, production out of some of these players like that, I think a lot of people in this fan base will stop complaining. But let's get to some of these comments because I am way behind. Jaden the Champ says, I don't feel comfortable drafting a QB with mid-core receivers. Neal should be a guard. Jaden, we are going to talk about the draft in a little bit. Best believe we'll talk about the wide receiver position because I know that that's a hot topic that a lot of Giants fans really love to talk about, especially when you look at the wide receivers that could potentially be on the board for when the Giants pick if they stay at 6. NYG31 says, I just hope Evan Neal wins that right tackle job. Listen, man, I think all of us would love to see Evan Neal win that right tackle position and Jermaine Illuminor becomes a swing tackle. In a perfect world, that would be the best case scenario, in my opinion. But time will tell, and you got to hope that Evan Neal takes that step forward. He changed his stance last year. Despite him playing injured, they really didn't do shit for him. I'm going to be honest. There was some improvement in his game, but in my honest opinion, this is going to be a make-or-break season for him. I would really hate to see a top 10 pick that we selected just 3 years ago possibly be on the hot seat, if not cut after this season if we can't get it going at guard at that point. But we'll see, man. Jarius says, Rome at 6, Penix at 47, keep them together. I don't have a problem with the Dunze at 6, Jarius, but Penix – it ain't even so much the injury concerns for me, man. It was earlier in the offseason, but at this point, it's just the uncertainty of what we have on the right side. For me to confidently say we have someone that could be his blind side protector. Whereas Andrew Thomas, I know for a fact if we get, I know a lot of people really like JJ or a Drake May or a Jaden. Whoever one of those quarterbacks the Giants select, if they are able to, they have a solidified top 5 left tackle right there to protect their blind side. We don't have that right now on the right side. So I'm a little wary on taking a Penix, but would I be upset? Absolutely not. Penix, I think, in my honest opinion, I think he's a good quarterback. I think in the right system, in the right scheme, he could be a good quarterback. And pairing those two back up together, I mean, who knows what that could do, especially Odunze, who I think in any other draft would be wide receiver one. But we'll definitely talk about that in a little bit, man. Definitely appreciate you stopping by. Chris, appreciate you stopping by, man. Wish we could have you on. He says, on my way back home, tapping in. Get home safe, man. Appreciate you stopping by. Jaden says, do y'all think Drew Lock can possibly start over Jones? Reality, we don't see that happening. Listen,
Just
man.
put on some young Jeezy. They'll be locked in.
There you go. Put on some young Jeezy, and you might have something cooking. But all jokes aside, man, and we could touch into this a little bit. I mean, the Drew Lock signing, it was nice and all. The Giants had to address the position, but this isn't a signing that really moves me personally. I mean, he did have that nice game-winning drive against the Philadelphia Eagles, hitting Jackson Smith-Njigba for the game-winning touchdown. But in my honest opinion, this is just a guy to me that can help, keep the ship afloat while Daniel Jones is in rehab. If they do decide to select a quarterback in the draft, give him some time, to get the ropes in. Drew Lock can be a serviceable quarterback. I think it's an upgrade over Tommy DeVito, but I would put him and Tyrod in the same category of my expectations. I'm not too over the hill about it. It's a nice signing. It's a fully guaranteed signing. I believe it's $5 million. I am a little interested to know what conversations were had, because you had the general manager of the Seahawks come out and just out of nowhere, nobody even asked him, just say, Drew Lock and his representatives said that they viewed the Giants' job as a Baker Mayfield role of what he had over there in Tampa. And then Drew Lock had to quickly address that the next day and say, no, it was reiterated to me that Daniel Jones is the starter. Weird stuff, but this doesn't move me. This doesn't stop me from wanting to take a quarterback in the first round for me personally. But do you guys see that happening? Can you see, Drew Lock come in and win this job out? I think we all care, but I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts.
I'll say this. All right, go ahead, Aaron. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'll say this. As far as the Drew Lock signing is concerned, I was kind of like 50-50 on it. Really, what does he do good? I mean, can he read a defense well? Can he fit the ball into, tight, those tight window throws? Can he throw those backside digs when necessary? Those are the things that you're going to want to see, because if Daniel Jones isn't ready, you got to be able to make sure that Drew Lock is, one, coached up to an extent to where he knows the playbook and he can handle the offense. I think that's really, really key. I mean, as of right now, I mean, this QB situation is in flux as far as in my opinion. And can we have some sort of consistency with Drew Lock? That I guess that awaits to be seen. So I look at it as just an insurance policy for Daniel Jones. That's the way I look at it. Is he a serviceable backup? Yes. I mean, he did come in for Geno Smith when I think he was out at least 2 or 3 games the past season. He didn't do all that well. He didn't do all that bad either. Like I said, it's just a serviceable backup just in case DJ isn't ready to go.
Yeah, no, perfectly said. And that's honestly how I'm viewing it too. Just a serviceable backup that can keep your shit afloat while, you have your quarterback, rehabbing, and your potential, quarterback in the draft, get some time to learn the ropes, learn the offense. It's not a bad signing, but just my expectations are just low for the signing. Aaron, you got anything else you want to add to that while we move on?
Pretty much that he's like a David Carr, Ryan Nassib kind of guy. So I think with this move, we'll definitely draft a quarterback and put Tommy DeVito on the practice squad. But I'm just not sure who Joe Shane likes. And there is one, the quarterback, though, in the draft that is untouchable now. So
Yeah. unfortunately, man. And I definitely, I'm going to get to the rest of these comments real quick. Jaden says, getting online depth is the move, and Joe Shane wasn't lying about it. No, he absolutely wasn't. I mean, he has been, and like we said earlier, man, I mean, he's been trying, he's been, putting, allocating resources to the offensive line. It's just been a matter of it just hasn't been hitting. Lewinsky hasn't hit. Evan Neal hasn't hit yet. I'm going to say yet. He has not hit yet. McKeithen hasn't been too good for us. The list kind of goes on, and you got to hope that list changes, at least for his sake. But you got to hope that it changes and get this ship in the right direction, because right now our offensive line, it's not looking too good. But with the signings, it does leave a little bit of optimism and hope that the Giants are trying to bring this in the right direction. Jaden also says, Brian Burns, Sexy Dexy, and Kayvon. Yes, sir. That's definitely something to be excited about. Jarius says, Penix will sit for a year, and by then he will be. By then, right tackle will be good. You gotta hope. Yeah, you gotta hope, because we can't have another season where the right tackle play is a problem once again. I don't think Jermaine Illuminor can be any worse than what we saw last year in Evan Neal. I don't think that he can be worse than what we saw in Tyree Phillips before his injury, or at least hope he can't be worse than that. But we'll see, man. We'll definitely see. Miz, appreciate you stopping by, man. Thank you so much, man. Definitely has been a long time, man. Hope all is doing well. CP says, I think Locke takes DJ's job at some point. I'm not even gonna lie. Chris, you crazy for that. You are crazy for even wishing that or speaking that into existence, because I hope that doesn't happen. I think at this point, anyone could beat out Jones for that position, in my honest opinion, but I probably stand alone in that. He also says, are we confident that Daniel Jones is ready week 1? Honestly, and I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. I'm not confident that Jones will be ready by week 1. I'm really not. It took Kyler Murray some time to get back, and really feel comfortable to get back on the field, though the Cardinals really weren't in a rush to rush him back in. But I don't think the New York Giants should be in any rush to rush this guy back in. 2 neck injuries, an ACL tear, a history of ankle injuries. Like, I'm not rushing to bring you back in whatsoever. It had to be my way. I'd rather, and I hate to say this, but we've seen the Broncos do it. We've seen other teams eat that dead cap. In a perfect world, I would rather see Daniel Jones hold a pen and paper on the sideline. Let him hold a pen and paper on the sideline in the season. You made it very clear that that is not your guy going forward. No need to risk any further injury. No need to, cause anything that you don't need to cause. In my honest opinion, that's how I feel it should go. Will it go that way? We'll see. But I'm not confident that Daniel Jones will be ready by week 1.
And he has an option out for next year. So even if he does play a little bit, he's out after this year anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. Wow. I had to highlight this because I had not seen this name in quite some time. Jerry says, don't we still have Bryce Ford Wheaton? Never know what he can become. I mean, when you look at the financials, what he was given last year, I mean, seems to be a player that they really want to mold and, try to develop. And we'll see how that works out. I mean, I've always approached him as another David Mills, just due to the fact, David Sills, just due to the fact that I felt, if he was good enough to be signed in the draft, he would have been signed. Now, that's not the best of reasons, but in my honest opinion, I mean, you saw just last year, I mean, the wide receiver core was pretty, at least played better when Tyrod got in the rotation, same with Tommy DeVito, but we could have used some of that help early in the season, and they didn't think he would be ready enough. Now, in my honest opinion, can we see him maybe this year develop into a wide receiver 5 or maybe a 4 going forward? I mean, it's all possible, but for me personally, my expectations are kind of low. I think they are going to address wide receiver. I wouldn't be shocked if they took 2 wide receivers in this draft, just due to the fact that they really don't have anybody outside of Slayton, Wandale, and Jalen Hyatt at the moment. And McKenzie, I think, is more of a camp body, if I'm just being honest here. I don't know if you guys want to kind of touch on Breastford Wheaton real quick, or if y'all, but
yeah, I got something to say. I'll say something. The kid's got size, you know. He's his size, I think he's what, 6'2", 6'3". So he's got the size to be a 1. The fact is, that's what everybody's been screaming about. But the question is whether or not this kid can get coached up to be more or less a serviceable backup, 3, 4, 5, let alone even a starter. So that's a huge question right there where Bryce Ford Wheaton is concerned. What steps has he taken since last season to be able to be serviceable and be utilized? I believe that they're going to definitely go wide receiver in this draft. I hope that they go wide receiver at 6. I really do like Neighbors. That's going to upset some people, but hey, that's just my opinion. That's what I would like to see them do. But yeah, first and foremost, we got to definitely address this wide receiver core, because you cannot always, not saying that we can't rely on them, but if you just got Slayton, Hyatt, and Wandale, you're going to have to get some other players in there. I think McKenzie is more or less special teams at this point. You could probably pencil it in as maybe wide receiver 4 or 5, depending on how everything shakes up. But they got to definitely address that wide receiver position, and I hope that they at least address it at 6. If not, somewhere in this draft, they got to address it.
Yeah, and they definitely will. I stand firm. I think they'll address that position early. Free agency has kind of shown you a bit that that's still a glaring need. And I think when a need is that glaring, they're going to address that early, especially in the draft. But we'll see. We'll see. Miss says, think it's time to get our future quarterback. Y'all know I'm very high on May. I think that's a perfect transition to this draft talk. With the draft right now, I think it's fair to say Chicago, the dream is dead. Y'all know I wanted Caleb Williams. Not going to happen unless he pulls an Eli Manning. It's not going to happen. It's done.
Leave it alone.
Chicago,
let it go.
Listen.
It's done. Let it go.
I'm still soaking it in. But you're absolutely right, Nani. It's done. Chicago, they're going to take Caleb. Washington, I feel, there's a little bit of a smoke screen there. I've seen some people, predict May is going to go there. Some people predict Daniels is going to go there. I think they're going to go the Jaden Daniels route. I think it makes sense with Cliff Kingsbury. I also think it makes sense when you look at Washington. They've taken a quarterback that was kind of similar a little bit to Jaden Daniels and RG3. So do they look at that as a wrong that they can, turn into a right? Because of the way that they handled that RG3 situation many, many years ago. In my honest opinion, I think Jaden Daniels would be a pretty good, selection for Washington, looking at the weapons that they have there. Regardless of who they get, that offensive line is still trash. It's still not good. They're still going to have that quarterback running around.
And Bobby Johnson's the O-line coach.
Exactly.
Bobby Bin Laden is still the offensive line coach. So,
who's the backup?
No, so right now, actually, I don't even know who their backup is because they traded Sam Howell to the Seahawks.
They don't really have a backup, I don't think.
They are absolutely going quarterback right now. But it's
I think it's going to be Drake May for Washington. I think that's a San Francisco kind of guy, the Dan Quinn kind of guy. So I think it's going to be Drake May.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. I got them penciled to take Jaden Daniels, but I could definitely see that. New England, I know there's some fans that believe that New England's going to trade out of 3. I think that's smoke. I think New England's going to stay at 3. I think they take their guy, whether that's May, whether that's JJ. They're going to take a quarterback there, unless they decide to which I can't see them do. Take a Marvin Harrison and say we'll figure out the quarterback position later. I can't see them doing that.
They'll draft him. New England wants him really bad.
Here's what I'll say about that. I think they picked up Jacoby Brissett.
They did. He's back.
So the question is this: Do you have enough trust in Jacoby Brissett to start him and pass on a quarterback? That's the question.
I don't
I
think.
If you
mean,
don't,
I don't think so.
it's
Okay,
only
so-
a year deal, and he has won. I think he won a game in New England when Tom Brady was suspended. But he's a serviceable guy. He's not that bad of a quarterback.
so
But
so you get where I'm going with this.
yeah, I do.
If you only signed him for a year, it makes no sense for New England to trade out of that spot. You have an opportunity to take a franchise quarterback. I don't see them passing on it.
Yep.
I don't see them passing on it at all. I don't care what anybody is going to even attempt to give them. You could give them, what's that guy? Floyd Mayweather's bag that he carries around with 150 million. You can give them all that. They're still not going to take it because they have to do their due diligence, what's best for the franchise, and get a franchise quarterback.
I think they go Marvin. If Marvin's room is there and they saw what his dad did against them in playoff games, I think they go.
I mean, I think as
Marvin.
Giants fans, we would love it because that means two quarterbacks are going to fall, and if the rumors are true, even if the Vikings trade up and take one of them, you still have a quarterback that can fall to your lap. Because I do not believe that the Chargers are going to move out of 5. I don't believe that they're going to move out of 5. So you have
the only person moving is Arizona.
I could see it. I mean, they need help. They need help right now. So I could absolutely see that be the case.
I think they go neighbors.
Arizona.
And I think we trade down. I think one of those teams is gonna, depending on how this goes, the top 4. If they're still JJ, like we just said, I think Minnesota will call us up and ask us for that draft pick, and Joe Shane will trade down. I don't see us staying put at 6 for some weird reason this year. I think we're gonna trade down and get more. I don't know why. I just feel like it's gonna happen.
So where are they picking that? Well, 11 or 12?
I believe.
Yeah.
Let me check now.
It would be. I think Minnesota's 11. So yeah, I think we would trade down, go for 11, and just accumulate like another pick for next year or something like that.
I mean, at that point,
so right now the Vikings have picks. Let me see. So
I think they have Texans first
11.
rounder too.
Yes, they do. So they have the 11th overall pick. That is theirs right now. Now let's see. They have the 23rd overall pick as well, which they got from Houston, from Cleveland. So they have 2 first-round picks. 2 first-round picks. Now,
I mean,
give us 11 and 23, and then whatever that should be good.
I don't think they're going to give up those 2 firsts for just moving up 5 spots. That's a stretch.
If it's for a quarterback, I think they'll be.
If he's sitting there, yeah. Because I mean, listen, I don't mind Michael Penix. I mean, I saw he's not Michael Vick, even though he is a lefty, but he's a resilient kid. I mean, I think he's 23, 24, has a pretty good arm. His wrist snaps almost like Mike, but a little differently. You could get him in the second round, early second.
I don't think Penix is falling out of the first.
Really? He's like a Teddy Bridgewater type?
Here's my concern with Penix. Now, a lot of people say, don't really, I mean, he's healthy, okay, but he has a significant injury history. So regardless of what he may do in his pro day, the question is, how much trust do you have that this kid can stay healthy? What he's like, 24, 25 years old?
Yeah, he's like 24, 23 or something like that.
So that's my biggest concern. Outside of that, I think he's a very good quarterback. I think he's a good prospect. But the injury history is a concern. And if it's a concern for me and maybe other people, it's definitely a concern from anybody who is looking to draft them. You have to really ask that question. Are you willing to sit there and draft this kid first in the first round, knowing that injury history? JJ McCarthy, I posted something in our group chat about JJ McCarthy. And this was always the question that I had for them. What was he asked to do in Michigan? Because as far as yeah, they relied heavily on the run game. The run game opened up everything for them. He was pretty much a glorified game manager, if that.
Yep.
What was that kid really asked to do?
And guess who? And guess who Minnesota just got? Aaron Jones.
Exactly.
Handed off to Aaron Jones.
My whole thing is, outside of Williams, outside of May, outside of Daniels, do I think that J.J. McCarthy and Penix will go in the first round? Yes, probably later on. So if we do have a trade back scenario, Minnesota wants to go up and get themselves a quarterback. If the draft pans out to where New England doesn't take one, which I seriously doubt, they're definitely going to take a quarterback. Arizona may go Neighbors or Harrison, maybe or Dunze. Chargers may definitely address an offensive line and go alt. So where they're sitting around, what are we going to do now? If Minnesota comes calling and they're one at 11, I don't know if they'll package that 23 as well. If they have a second round pick, they'll probably throw that in there, maybe a next year's pick. I don't think they're going to want to give up a first round pick, even though they have 2, just for a quarterback. They're going to want to stay in and probably upgrade at some position, help out that team. So in that trade back scenario, are you willing to take Penix at 11 or even J.J. McCarthy at 11?
I mean, we could all agree that Bo Nix is off our radar. We do not want him.
I do not want Bo Nix. I
we can agree on that one.
If there is any quarterback in the later rounds that I would personally entertain, I like Joe Milton. His short game needs some work. His accuracy in the short game and the mid game needs some work as well. His processing needs to be a little bit better. But this would be someone that I think that Brian Daboll could potentially mold and help, fix some of his mechanics. I think when you look at what he was able to get out of, with Tommy DeVito, an undrafted quarterback who has a limited skill set, and you're able to get solid production out of him, and you're able to win some games with him. May not be the prettiest, but you're still able to win some games with him. I mean, I think a guy like Joe Milton, who has, more tangible traits, who has a rocket of an arm, who has some things in his game that can be fixed with coaching. I think that could be a player that if they can't luck into getting a quarterback in the first round, I think in round 3, that could be a quarterback that the Giants could potentially entertain. Whereas, Minnesota, I know that you guys aren't too sold on JJ. I personally like JJ. I think he has a nice arm. He's deadly accurate. Yes, he wasn't asked to do too much in Michigan, but I do think that, when you see the flashes to his game, I can understand why an NFL team would want to take that reach. I'm not even going to call it a reach, but take that chance on drafting JJ. And we know that these teams overvalue quarterbacks. I can't see a guy like JJ falling past 10. I can't. I really can't. And I think that Minnesota would be more than willing to trade up into the top 5, top 6 to get their guy. And in my honest opinion, I know, we're saying that second first round pick might be a little rich. I mean, the 23rd overall pick, that's the back end of the first round. You might be able to give up, 6 and maybe a later round pick for that 23rd overall pick. I don't got the point metrics in front of me, but you might be able to get that other first round pick if you do trade back. I'm not in the camp of wanting to trade back. You guys already know how I feel. I think the Giants need to stop playing games and get their guy this season. Now, obviously, we know it takes 2 to tango. I could sit here and say I want that, but if no team wants to trade down, Giants they're going to be at 6. And I hope that a guy falls to them, whether that's Daniels, whether that's whether that's McCarthy, whether that's May. I would absolutely love it. But reality of the situation is, I think Minnesota, they're going to trade up to 4. I think they take JJ. And at that point, the Giants are sitting in the position where they can snag up a very good weapon in a wide receiver 1, whether that's Neighbors, whether that's – I can't even believe we're saying this. I don't even want to believe it. But there's a possibility. There is some world out there that Marvin Harrison could potentially be there at 6.
Oh, my God. That's – talk about best player available.
Okay, I got a real quick question for that.
Chicago, hold on, before you go real quick. If you have Chicago taking Caleb, whether that's Jaden, whether that's Drake May, that's another quarterback. New England taking a quarterback, that's 3 quarterbacks. If they trade with Arizona and, The Vikings are able to jump to 4 to get their guy. That's 4 quarterbacks off the board. Then at that point, I know that a lot of people think that they're going to take all, but they have no wide receivers right now. They have none. And you have a lot of people, especially NFL people, that are buying more into this Malik Neighbors hype, saying that he can potentially be the first wide receiver taken. And if he's the first wide receiver taken, then at 6, you are sitting with Marvin Harrison Jr. sitting there, Rome Odunze sitting there. I mean, as much as I want a quarterback, believe me, I will not jump on this podcast with you guys or by myself and complain if the Giants are able to get a Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors, unless there's a quarterback sitting there that I might complain. But I'll get over it. I'll be fine. I'll live. I'll live. But it's possible. It's possible. And that's what makes the draft so much fun, because you never know. I mean, last year, we heard some rumors here and there that they may go corner, but I think you guys can agree with me. The general overall consensus was that the Giants were interested in one of those wide receivers, whether that was Jordan Addison, whether that was Quentin Johnson, whether that was Jackson Smith and the Jigba. I truly believe that the Giants were interested in one of the wide receivers, and come their pick, there really weren't any. There really weren't any. So they trade up, they take Deontay Banks, the rest is history. But I do think that 6, it's going to either be a quarterback or a wide receiver. I think at this point, you guys watching this know that's the case. But with how the draft is looking like it may shake out, damn, it kind of hurts me saying this. I mean, which is crazy. This could be the year that the Giants get their number 1 wide receiver. It's just a matter of who's going to throw on the ball. Who's going to play?
Well, I got a question. Do you guys consider Marvin Harrison a number 1?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
Without question.
So then that's the key right there. That's the key right there. You know, throughout the whole entire draft, season leading up into the draft, Marvin Harrison was considered the number 1 wide receiver there. That's going to get picked. Now there's some flip-flopping where people are saying it's not Marvin Harrison now, it's Malik Neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole thing is, I don't see Arizona passing on a wide receiver. I seriously don't. I don't really see them. Why do they need to draft a quarterback? Speedy Gonzalez is back healthy. Okay. Why would you pass on that?
If you get a haul from the Vikings, I think that entices you, because even with that, right? We know that Harrison, Odunze, and we know that Malik Neighbors, they're the consensus top 3 wide receivers. But after that, it's still a rich wide receiver class. So they could say to themselves, you know what? We may miss out on a Marvin Harrison or a Malik Neighbors, but you know what? We're about to get a haul for this pick. We could still get a wide receiver at 11 if we wanted to. Odunze might be there. He might not. His pro comp was Larry Fitzgerald, who he was on the Arizona Cardinals. Not saying he is, but, his comp is that. They could trade back. They could still get a wide receiver, and then they could get another piece for their team who is going into a second year under that regime. So I could see them trading it for the right price. Excuse me. I know I just hit my mic, but for the right price. If they were a team like New England, who they're devoid of talent and they need a quarterback, I don't see them trading out of that pick. But you have someone that your team has came out and said, this is our guy. We're going to build around this guy. Right now, you don't have any wide receivers, but you also don't have tight end help too. So why don't we trade back? Let's allocate more resources to this team. Let's build around Kyler Murray. Let them take JJ. It's not like we're going to the back end of the first round, but now we have a back end first round pick at 23, and we got 11. So we got more darts on the board. I can just see it. I think if there's going to be any team that trades out of the top 6, top 7, let's say even the top 5, I think it's Arizona. I think they're in a good position to trade out. I would say the Giants, but I don't know. I don't see the Giants trading out of 6 unless it's the trade out. I don't see them trading back.
Crazy scenario. We trade back and somehow with whatever trades picks we have, we trade for Stephon Diggs or something. I guess something like that.
Can the Giants afford a Stephon Diggs? That's the situation. Because then you still have a $40 million quarterback on your roster.
That's true.
No.
Unless somehow Daniel like takes another pay cut, which I don't think will happen again. But
The only thing I would entertain if we are trading for a wide receiver would be like a Brandon Ayuk, who that would be the only one I would entertain. But that's only because there was some rufflings that he wasn't too happy with San Francisco. I believe that there was conversation that Debo was going to get traded. I really do believe that, which it is. You're absolutely right, Aaron. It is. I do believe that San Francisco views their wide receivers as interchangeable. They're just one of those teams that are able to find wide receivers throughout the draft. Jawan Jennings has been pretty solid for them. They will probably find someone this year who's under the radar and does really well in their scheme over there. I could see it happening, but I just don't see the Giants, as much as I would love Stephon Diggs, be willing to take on that contract for a player at that age and still not know who's going to throw the ball for them.
True. I mean, I also saw too that Brian Thomas, which is Malik Neighbors' college teammate, they said this he's better than Malik Neighbors, and they're projecting him to be like a second round wide receiver.
Yeah,
taken.
I saw, and I'll send you guys this after the stream. Actually, before I do, peace and blessings, Coach. Hope you're doing great, man. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Love you on the Wednesday hoop shows. Those are good ones.
Hell yeah. Subscribe to Coach Ed's Gladney Show. You will not be disappointed. Makes excellent content over there. Hope you're doing well, Coach. I'll send you guys this in the chat when we're done. I saw a graphic today that they had, I don't know what's in the air. I saw that their wide receiver rankings were Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Marvin Harrison, and then Roma Dunze. I said, what crap?
Oh my goodness.
What are we talking about? Listen, whatever you got to put out there to make Marvin Harrison fall to 6, I got no issues with it. I got no problems with it. But what that is just so asinine. You want to say that Malik Neighbors is wide receiver 1 and Marvin Harrison is 1B. I might have a little pushback, but I get what you're saying. But once you equate Brian Thomas in there, I got a problem with it. I think he's a back-end first-round pick, if not second round, which is perfectly fine. Because, again, this is a loaded draft class, which I feel every year we say it's a loaded wide receiver class. And we'll see what the Giants do. We will see what the Giants do. Fellas, that's all I got. That is all I got today. We're going to wrap up this show. We're going over an hour here. I appreciate every single one of you guys stopping by and showing love. It's been great. Definitely just want to go over some of the people here. Coach Ed, Jarius, Philly Special Cards, Jaden the Champ, NYG31, Ms., CPNY Sports Network, Chris. Appreciate you guys stopping by. It really does mean a lot. Your guys' support means a lot more than you guys think. So thank you so much for sticking by, dropping your comments. If you guys have not already, and if you made it this far and you have not already, please subscribe to everyone who you see's channels below, as well as Chris from CPNY Sports Network. You can find the links to their channels in the description box below. So go over there, hit that subscribe button, give them a follow. Before we go out, is there anything you guys want to say to the rest of the people here while we have them in the chat?
Yes. So if anyone's tired of buying jerseys with current Giants, just go get the old ones. I got a Bear Pascal right here, 86 Super Bowl champ, Bear Pascal.
Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, get one of those. And also, shout out to Devin Singletary, you taking the number 26, former Antrell Roll and Orleans Darkwad number.
Anybody?
You missed a guy. You missed a guy. Right?
I didn't actually. Antrell Roll and Orleans Darkwad. That's still all I can remember.
You missed the most recent guy, but I understand why you did that. I understand.
No, he didn't. He said his name. He said Orleans Darkwad. That was pretty.
Yeah, Orleans Darkwad. That was the running back, right? but subscribe to these guys' channels and follow. And there's gonna be a lot more Giants content coming from all of us.
Oh yes,
definitely. Last thing to say. Thanks for everybody that's in the chat. Thanks for everybody that was coming in and, checking us out. We appreciate the support. Once again, I'm going to say, Hit Squad, it's not happening.
It's not happening. You won't hear from him. I'm going to FaceTime you if it happens.
Make sure you do. Make sure you do, but I already know. And I'm going to FaceTime you after Mike. You see, Caleb Williams is not coming. He's going to Chicago. He's going to the Windy City. Okay?
I know.
He's going there.
I hate how they handled that situation for Justin, man. I know. I
Oh,
wish
he
he
knew he was going to get traded. He knew he was getting traded. I mean, come on now.
But could
He
you
knew he
imagine
was
being
getting
on
traded.
that end knowing, damn, now y'all want to get some help? Now y'all want to get wide receivers? Now you guys want to address the defense? Man, I'd be pissed. I'd be damned. But
I'm just glad we didn't trade for him. I'm happy we didn't.
yeah, from a financial aspect, yeah, because he's
From
gonna
a player
command the new
standpoint as
contracts.
well.
I'm high on Justin Fields. I'm high on Fields.
Nah.
Anyways, y'all.
You just added another. If they're already complaining about Daniel Jones and you just added Justin Fields, can you imagine the vitriol that we'll get, that the Giants would get? It's like, okay, you just got Daniel Jones 2.0. What was the difference?
You know what? We will make that another segment on another.
There you go.
We absolutely will, because we gonna have some conversations about that. But
most definitely, man.
Like Aaron said, we will have more content out for you guys, especially with the draft approaching. Have a lot of stuff in store. Can't wait to show that with you guys. And again, appreciate your guys' support. But till then, appreciate every single one of you guys stopping by. And we'll see you guys on the next show.